Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe. So our Pistons tonight lost a heartbreaker, 110 to 108, but we are the heartbreak team of the NBA. We're 1-7 in games decided by 3 points or less, and we are the second worst clutch team in the league. I think the Wizards are the only team worse. We're 8-25 in games that we were within 5 points with 5 minutes or less left in the game. So that's what defines a clutch game. So we just got to turn some of those games around. If we have people healthy, if we add a few more pieces, if Antecchio's back and Grimes can play like I think he can, and we get everybody together, and we add a couple of players, a couple of free agents. You change those close games and flip them, then there's a lot more wins. So we'll see. But Cade Cunningham was fabulous tonight. He has been on a burner the last 3 games. He has averaged 34 points, shooting over 50%, 6 assists, and tonight. The shot clock was running down, and they threw it to him right at the buzzer. He hit a 3 to tie the game, 104-104, but he was remarkable tonight. He was 13 for 22, 3 for 4 on threes, 7 for 8 on free throws with the 36 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds. So a big night for Cade, and, we're just playing with a lot of guys that are G Leaguers. That's what he's playing with, or guys that were washed up that nobody else wanted. That's who he's playing with. So we're going to talk tonight about comparing him to Jalen Green with the Rockets. They were drafted, right after each other. Cade was 1 and Green was number 2. So we'll compare those 2 players. Green's been on a burner too lately. So we'll dive into that in a little bit. But it was tough tonight with Duren. 5 minutes into the game, he gets hit head-to-head, I think, with Jaren Jackson and gets a tooth knocked out. And so he did not return. And after that, then Jackson could just go right. He just forced it right into the paint. He just forced drives, and they bailed him out on a bunch of free throws. He got to shoot a lot of foul shots. He was 12 for 14, and he just forced it down our throats. And he played great. So he had a terrible game Saturday. He scored 4 points Saturday, and they got killed Saturday. And they were behind by like 40 on Saturday, but they came back. We were up ahead by 15. And so, again, this happens quite frequently. We were ahead 27-20. Cade hardly missed a shot, and Ivy hardly missed a shot. And then they take him out with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the first quarter. And then finally they put Cade back in, and the score's 37-37. And then we go on a 25 run, and we're up by 13 at halftime. We like I said, we had been up by 15 at one point. But, yeah, it's really tough. But the Grizzlies were missing a lot of players too. We were missing – after Duren got out, so that meant we were missing 5 of our top 7 players, and they were missing John Morant, who's their best player arguably, and Desmond Bane, who is incredible. And so they were missing. They had 8 players out, so they missed. So we tied the record, all-time NBA record, with 30. We set the record, I think, with 31 different players that we used during the season. Well, they topped the record. They've had so many injuries this year, and they played on Saturday. They played their 32nd different player during the season. So, we're going to talk. Like I said, we're going to talk about Jalen Green and Cade Cunningham. But it's interesting. We criticize Monty. I do, and he deserves it a lot of times. But Emini Udoka, who coaches the Rockets, they've had a really good year, and they had won like 11 in a row. And then what happens? They get killed by the Mavericks last night, and the podcasters are trashing him because Luka had like 33 in the first half. And just like we've criticized Monty this year, when a guy's just destroying us like that, and they never double teamed him once. They just let him go one-on-one and he just was killing them. And so it's just interesting. Every coach gets criticized. If you listen to other podcasts, the Warriors podcast, Steve Kerr gets criticized. A lot of the coaches that are the best coaches, they still get criticized. And not that I'm saying that Monty's a good coach. I'm just saying that I just found it interesting hearing them saying that Udoka was brain dead or something. I don't know what they said, but interesting thing though. So Cade is, Green has just been on fire lately. He has had like 14 games. So when they had this big long winning streak, Green was the star player. Sengun got hurt, and so he's been missing, and everybody thought he was so great. And then since he got out, Green's got to handle the ball more, and he's produced more, and he's produced at a higher level, and he shot a real high percentage, which he hasn't. So we are going to compare him and Cade. But last night, he was 5 for 15, and they were trapping him. They were double teaming him. Welcome to Cade's world. That's what they're doing to Cade every night. Cade, had, even other years, he's been doubled more than any player. Even the end of his rookie year, he was doubled almost more than any player in the league. And so it's because don't have other players around him. And so everybody game plans. Everybody puts their best player on him. And, we don't have other players. They put somebody tall and athletic and that's really good at defense, and then they double him. And so that's what Jalen Green got to face, and he struggled, and then the team struggled. So that's just a difference. But here it is. It's amazing how Jalen Green has been so consistent. So he's played 3 years like Cade, but Cade missed almost all of last year. He played 12 games, but he's averaging exactly the same this season as he is for his 3-year career, 19.9. He did it both years. So this year he is averaging 5.1 rebound, and last year for his career he's averaging only 4.1 rebound. So he's up 1 rebound from his career this year, and then he's averaging 3.5 assists this year and only 3.3 assists for the other 2 years for his career combined. 42% for this season, 42% for his career. 33% on threes, 33% this year. Both 79% this year, 79% for his career. It's amazing how he just is exactly the same. And so that would lead you to believe that that's a likely outcome for him in the future. Here's the thing about him. People were trashing him. People were saying before this heater that he's been on for like the last 11 or 14 games or whatever it's been, they were saying that we got to trade him. He was on the trade block. They were talking about trade him to Chicago, trade him, lots of different places they were willing to trade him. And then there's debate about, should they re-sign him to the rookie max extension? And everybody was saying no. And now he's had this hot stretch, and people are kind of changing their tune. But Cade Cunningham, so Cade, this year he's averaging 24.4. For his career, he's averaging 19.9, which is the same as Green. This year, he's only averaging 4.3 rebounds. And I'm going to tell you something about rebounding. Cade averaged more his rookie year, but we didn't have Jalen Duren. So when Jalen Duren's getting 12 rebounds a game, and then you got Isaiah Stewart or you got Wiseman, Wiseman's averaged a lot of rebounds per minute played, and so then he doesn't get as many rebounds. And so he's averaged 4.3 this year and 5.1 for his career. So he's down, but that's understandable why. But this year he's averaging 7.5 assists. He's averaging 3 whole assists more a game than Jalen Green. And Jalen Green, obviously he has players on his team that are handling the ball a lot too, so that affects it. So it's always hard to compare, but still averaging 4 assists a game more is a lot. And 6.5 assists for his career, and Green's 3.3. So Green is shooting 42%, Cade shooting 45%. Green shooting 33% on threes. This year, Cade is shooting 35%. So he's shooting higher percentages on everything. He's got way more assists. He's a little bit below him on rebounds for this season. He's higher on rebounds for the career. They're both great free throw shooters, but Green shot, like I said, 79% for his career and this year. Cade's 87% this year and 86% for his career. So again, there's always going to be debate, I think, between those two players. And interesting thing, you watch, I mentioned this before, that Amen Thompson has been playing really great lately, and I think I mentioned it. The Pistons staff it was obvious. I think that Monty Williams never watched any tape of Jaden Ivey last year. Didn't know what he was getting. Didn't know anything about him. But our staff needs to break down film and study how the Rockets are using Amen Thompson and how, I mentioned this before, the Nuggets are using Aaron Gordon. Those are players that aren't good shooters, but are great athletes. And obviously, Amen's a lot like Asar, and so they're having a lot of success again. He had a hard time. He was bad on Saturday night, or last night, not Saturday night. But he has been having a really good stretch, and again, you can learn from other people on how to best use somebody, because Asar is a real force on the court with all the different things that he can do, but you got to put him in the best position. So, yeah, Monty said he wants to try to win the rest of the year. He wants players to play. He doesn't just want to have players sit out. So, Cade looked really fast tonight. He looked really fresh, even at the end. But so he wants players maybe to play less minutes, but he just doesn't want them just to sit out games, So it'll be interesting to see. There's not that many games left, but we have to go to the Hawks and play on Wednesday, and they're playing better, and they're getting Jalen Jackson back, and he's a really good player this year. He had a breakout year. Then we got to turn around and go back to the Grizzlies and play the same team on Friday in Memphis. But the tough thing is this happens to us all the time. So we have to play on Saturday. We get to play the Nets. So the Nets are arguably a winnable game, and they're not a strong team. But it's tough when you fly to Memphis and then play in Memphis, and then you got to fly back to Brooklyn and play the Nets the same night. You're usually not going to play as well. And then I know at the end of the season we get to play the Spurs, but that's going to be the second game of a back-to-back also. So the one thing is about it, I think that there's, especially if we would have won tonight, there would be a really good chance that we could catch the Wizards or pass the Wizards and have a better record than the Wizards. But the Spurs have been winning some, and they won the other night, and so it's almost going to be impossible for us to catch the Spurs. So it looks like for sure we are going to have one of the two worst records. So that would mean we're going to have, the highest odds to get a top 4 pick, and we're going to get no worse than the 6th pick. So if you have the second worst record, you could slide to the 6th pick. Not likely, but with our luck, the way it's been, we might. So just run through the box scores. I'm not going to spend as much time as I usually do. Like I said, I already mentioned Cade's incredible night, and IB was 35 minutes, 7 for 17, 2 for 8 on threes, 4 for 5 on free throws. He might have hit his first 2 threes. It looked good. 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 turnovers, and 20 points. So not a bad game. Metu has had, I think this is his 3rd good game in a row, 27 minutes, 6 for 10, 1 for 3 on threes. But it killed me. At the end of the game, Cade drives into the basket, into the lane. Everybody collapses on him. He kicks it out. No one's within a half mile of Metu, and he misses it. I mean, like I said, he's played really well, but he just missed a shot. But nobody was near him. Cade made the right play. But he had 8 rebounds, which is good, 0 assists, 2 blocks, 17 points. He was -8. He had one of the worst plus-minuses, but he played well. Wiseman, 28 points, 5 for 8, 10 rebounds, 1 block, 10 points. I saw somebody on Twitter saying something about questioning his IQ, and people just like to trash him. A lot of big guys, they look doofy, they look slow, and whatever, but I'm telling you, 28 points and 5 for 8 and 10 rebounds in 28 minutes is not a bad game. And he blocked a shot, and he was challenging other shots. So Flynn played only 14 minutes, 3 for 7, 2 for 5 on threes, 1 for 2 on free throws, 2 rebounds, 0 assists, and 2 turnovers. So he's supposedly a point guard. He gets to handle the ball all the time, but my observation is that he loves to shoot more than he loves to pass. And so that's what he did tonight. And he had 0 assists and 2 turnovers, shot 7 times in only 14 minutes. So Fournier, 29 minutes, 2 for 8, and this just kills us. He's a shooter, but he's not shot well. He got off to a pretty good start with the Pistons, and he's 1 for 5 on threes, and 2 for 8 from the floor. And he had 3 rebounds and 4 assists, which isn't bad, but 5 points. But he's a shooter. That's his value, is shooting the ball. And if he makes one more shot, and as good as he is, and he's 1 for 5 on threes, we win the game. So I just wanted to mention one thing. It's real easy to criticize people and say what people says. And Tim McCormick is not a dumb guy. He's pretty smart, but sometimes people, and I'm sure a lot of you think I say some dumb things, but he says, Cade Cunningham wants to play 65 games because there's that threshold that the NBA now, for all awards, or for Defensive Player of the Year and for All NBA and for MVP, you have to play at least 65 games. Well, Cade's just got to play a couple more, I think, to reach 65. But Tim McCormick says he wants to do it so he can get All NBA. And I'm here to tell you, Cade has had a great year, especially after the first 18 games of the year. He has had a really good year. He has had a good enough year. There's going to be some guys that make All NBA. There's 3 teams All NBA, so there's 15 guys that get picked for it. There's going to be some guys on there that have worse stats than Cade, but Cade will not be considered Tim McCormick because of the team, because of our record. So it amazes me that somebody that covers the NBA would make a comment that he wants to do that so he can get All NBA, because there's not a chance. So anyway, just like there's not a chance, some Piston fans sign Paul George. Let's sign him. He's going to be a free agent. The Clippers haven't signed him yet. There's no way in a million years that Paul George is signing with the Pistons. It just amazes me that some of the comments people make. He lives in California. His parents come to all of his games. He loves that, having his parents come to his games. And if he was going to go somewhere, it would be to somewhere like Philly, who has a chance to win a championship. So he's not coming here. I'm sorry. And just like the people that want us to trade for Lauri Markkanen. And so there's just other teams that if the Jazz wanted to trade him, they could get more for him from OKC. So OKC can give the world to a team. We could trade Ivy for Ivy and Duren and throw in our first-round pick. We can trade our first-round pick this year, and it could be number 1. We could trade it after we make the pick, but we can agree to it. We can agree with that with like the Jazz and say we'll pick this player for you and have that in place for the trade. So some of my listeners love Jonathan Isaac and wanted to trade for him, and so did I. And I agreed with you, and he is so long and so good on defense, and he's shooting the ball better, and he's been injured his whole career. He's been just injured. But some of these players that look like they're tradable and they might be on the block and teams might be wanting to cut salary, and even like DeAndre Hunter for the Hawks, he has been playing great. He was available. He still might be available because they want to cut costs in Atlanta, but I think he's played his way. He's played so great that I don't think that they would want to trade him. So anyway, Luke Kennard, our former Piston, he scored 19 points, 7 for 4, 5 for 11 on threes. So he hurt us. And their Clark for them he's been out all year, and then he came back, Brandon Clark, and he scored 15 points. He was 7 for 12. He looked really good. I liked him, and times I thought I would like the Pistons to get him. So, but if you watch the Piston game tonight, like I did, you missed the better game. So Iowa's women's team played LSU, which is a big rivalry game. They don't like each other, and Iowa won. And Caitlin Clark had 41 points and 12 assists, and so that she had a great game. So they're going back to the Final Four, which is going to be exciting. One of the girls I coach in AU gets to go watch the Final Four in Cleveland this year. And now tonight, right now, as I'm recording this, USC is playing Connecticut, and they have some really good players on those teams. So, women's college basketball is really deservedly taken off. And, I mean, the tickets for the Final Four of the women's are going to sell for more than the men's. So that's partly because some of these women are staying in the game longer. Caitlin Clark's been there a while, and Paige Buechler's been at Connecticut for a while, and so people get to know them. And so, in the NBA, not all the best players are playing in the NBA anymore, and then the better players usually are playing just 1 year. So, anyway, Thank you very much for listening, and be the reason that someone feels cared for. And let's go Pistons.